How's everybody doing? Mike here at the limo garage. Today we're replacing an oil pressure sending switch for our Dodge Charger. This is a 2014 with a 3.6 liter in it. So if you're running a Chrysler 300 or a Charger with a 3.6, this is the exact same setup. Everywhere I looked online said the same thing. Remove intake manifold to replace oil sensor. Yeah, well, I just re-engineered this car, reverse engineered it to figure out how to get the sensor out without taking out the intake. There you go. There's your old sensor. As you can see, the intake manifold's still installed. So I didn't do this video from the beginning because I wasn't really sure on how I was going to do this. So like I said, I had to kind of reverse engineer this car. So knowing that it was mounted back here, I just kind of started removing everything that was in my way. So first thing you got to do, you'll notice there's no windshield wiper cowl here now. I already removed it. Very simple to remove in this car. There's two nuts. These are sitting on top of your windshield. These are on your windshield wipers. One nut there, one on the other side for the other wiper. Okay? And then just pop the wiper arms off. Then you've got some plastic clips that hold on the cowl. Take that off. Then you've got, see this bar right here? This crossbar goes from that strut tower to this strut tower over here. Okay? Take that off, get that out of the way. Now once you get down in here, you're still not going to be able to get to it because you've got so much shit in the way. Alright? So what I ended up doing was I removed everything that I could possibly get out of the way. Now, this piece right here, and also, where is the bracket? This bracket right here was originally sitting right here, completely in the way. So once I removed that piece and then removed the bracket, I was able to access the back side of the engine. Let me get my light down in here and you can see what I'm talking about. Way down in there, that's where your sensor goes. You can get in there with a socket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting this thing back together. I'll show you guys how it goes together, and that way at least you'll have somewhat of an idea of how to get this thing apart. And, you know, I don't like doing videos this way because you don't get to see how it comes apart. But I wasn't really sure how to do it myself, and I couldn't find anything online. So, this is how it ended up. So, I'm going to go ahead and start putting this thing back together. And hopefully this helps somebody out there. It makes your life a little bit easier. Alright, so what you're looking at here is the back side of the engine. And this is where the engine meets the transmission on the firewall side. So I've already got the sensor removed. So now I'm going to attempt to reinstall the new one. I want to start it by hand so I don't have any problems with the threads. So I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this in the video or not. But this sensor goes way back down in here underneath the intake. And once I get the threads started on it, I can get a socket on there to tighten it up. And then I'll show you guys how this thing goes back together. So now I've got the sensor back in. I started it by hand to make sure that the threads set the way that they should. Now I've got my socket down in there with my ratchet. And we're just going to start snugging this thing up. Now you want to make sure not to put this thing too tight because it's not going to take much to break it. So now I've got the sensor in there. It's plugged in. Now we're going to start putting this thing back together. See where everything goes. Now you've got this bracket right here. I had to take this out. And this is actually held in by two bolts down here on the bottom. See, here's your bolt holes right here. 1, 2. And that bolt's in right there. Those are actually two transmission bolts. And then once that's in, this bolts right to the top of it with two 10mm bolts. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back together. Alright, so we're starting to look like something now. You can see I've got this back in place. The black bracket is what holds this piece in place here. And you've got two 10mm bolts to put that back in. There is a nut on the bottom, so make sure you get a 10mm wrench and don't drop those two nuts. So since we're doing this backwards, once you get this unbolted, you can just step this aside, and then you just take this bracket off by removing those two bolts that go into the top of the transmission. I think it was two 15mm bolts, if I remember right. Fairly long, about yay long, and you're going to need a good size ratchet to get a little bit of torque in there to get those free. Once you get that off and get it aside, then you'll be where we were a few minutes ago. So just with this going back together now, gonna have to move some vacuum lines around, get these things back to where they were. So you've got this line here, which goes over to your brake booster, and this actually connects to the top of this line right here. So we're just gonna plug this back in. Make sure you put all your little brackets back on. You can see here, you got this piece here. And then this line comes back over here, and it's going to go actually right between these two here, and this is going to stick right onto the side of the intake. Just like that. There we go. And then you've got your little brackets there and here. And that's that. So, I mean, all in all, it's really not that bad. I think it's a lot easier than taking the intake off. Now, I did have to take off the crossbar and take off the cowl for the wipers, which is really no big deal. You've got to just take off your wiper arms, a couple of little plastic tabs on the cowl, and then you've got 4 bolts total for this crossbar. This is the crossbar that goes from one side. You got your strut tower over here. It bolts in there, and same thing on the other side. So other than that, fairly easy. You know, I wish this was a little bit more of a detailed oriented video. Like I said, I did this one kind of backwards. So if you guys have any questions, you're not sure exactly how to do this, send me a message or give me a call. I'll be happy to help you guys out. So the ultimate question is, can you replace the oil sending unit on a 3.6 liter without removing the intake manifold? And the answer is yes, it can be done. Alright, well, and there she is, all back together. No leaks, no noises, we're good. Now this was the cowl that I was talking about earlier. So there's a little plastic piece here, you pop that off, and you'll see a nut that looks like this. So you take those off, then you can pop your windshield wiper arms off. Then the cowl is just held on with these little plastic pieces here, these little plastic tabs. And those just pop right up real easy, no big deal there. And then, like I said, underneath that you've got that crossbar, and that's just got 2 bolts on this side and 2 bolts on the other side. So that's really all you guys didn't see. So, pretty simple. She's fixed. So I'll be sure to get this up on YouTube, because I looked everywhere and everybody said the same thing. You gotta take that intake off to make it work. And that's definitely not true. So here we are. Oil pressure's working like it should. Look at that. It was stuck on 99 for a default and setting a check engine light. We're all fixed. So much for 5 hours worth of engine work, right? Done in 2. Alright guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.